Welcome to Biblical Bites. Today, we're diving into a critical topic that has been a concern throughout biblical history: idolatry. Understanding what the Bible says about idolatry helps us align our lives with God's will and avoid common pitfalls that can distance us from our faith. Idolatry, in its simplest form, is the worship of idols or false gods. The Bible frequently addresses this issue, emphasizing its dangers and consequences. From the golden calf in the Old Testament to the warnings against greed in the New Testament, idolatry is presented as a significant spiritual danger. In this video, we will explore the definition of idolatry, its portrayal in both the Old and New Testaments, and its relevance in our modern lives. By understanding the biblical perspective on idolatry, we can better guard our hearts and stay true to our faith. Idolatry, according to the Bible, is the worship of anything or anyone other than the one true God. It involves giving ultimate allegiance, reverence, and devotion to created things rather than the Creator. The Bible explicitly condemns idolatry in the Ten Commandments, stating, "You shall have no other gods before me." Exodus 23. In modern understanding, idolatry extends beyond the worship of physical idols. It includes placing excessive importance on material possessions, status, relationships, or personal achievements. Anything that takes the central place in our hearts and lives, displacing God, can be considered an idol. By examining both the biblical definition and the broader modern context, we can recognize the subtle forms of idolatry that might infiltrate our lives today. This awareness helps us stay vigilant and ensure our devotion remains solely directed toward God. The Ten Commandments clearly state God's prohibition against idolatry. The first two commandments instruct, "You shall have no other gods before me, and you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below." Exodus 20, 3-4. These commandments underscore the importance of exclusive worship of God and rejection of any form of idol worship. Key Old Testament scriptures further reinforce this teaching. For example, Leviticus 19:4 says, "Do not turn to idols or make metal gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God." Deuteronomy 4:15-19 warns against worshiping created things like the sun, moon, and stars. These passages highlight the seriousness of idolatry and the need for the Israelites to remain faithful to God. Historically, the Israelites struggled with idolatry, often influenced by surrounding nations. Notable examples include the worship of the golden calf, Exodus 32, and the repeated turning to Baal worship during the time of the judges and kings. These instances serve as stark reminders of the consequences of idolatry, including divine judgment and national calamity, illustrating the ongoing challenge of staying true to God amidst external pressures. Jesus addressed idolatry by emphasizing the importance of wholehearted devotion to God. In Matthew 6:24, he stated, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." This teaching underscores the need to prioritize God above all else, warning against the idolatry of wealth and materialism. The apostles continued this teaching, warning early Christians about the dangers of idolatry. Paul, in his letters, repeatedly cautioned against idolatry, linking it to greed and immoral behavior. For instance, in Colossians 3:5, he wrote, "Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry." These writings highlight the various forms idolatry can take, urging believers to lead lives that honor God. Key New Testament scriptures reinforce these warnings. 1 John 5:21 simply states, "Dear children, keep yourselves from idols." Acts 17:16-34 recounts Paul's encounter in Athens, where he observed a city full of idols and preached about the true God. These passages reflect the consistent New Testament message. Followers of Christ must remain vigilant against idolatry, ensuring their worship and devotion are directed solely towards God. Idolatry carries significant spiritual consequences, leading to a fractured relationship with God. The Bible frequently describes idolatry as spiritual adultery, an act of unfaithfulness that provokes God's jealousy and anger. For instance, Ezekiel 6:9 expresses God's pain over Israel's idolatry, saying, "I have been grieved by their adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me." This spiritual estrangement results in a loss of divine favor and blessings. Physical consequences of idolatry are also evident in the Bible. Idolatrous practices often led to tangible punishments, including plagues, famines, and defeats in battle. The incident of the golden calf in Exodus 32 resulted in the death of about 3,000 people as a direct consequence of their sin. These physical repercussions served as severe reminders of the dangers and immediate consequences of turning away from God. Societal consequences of idolatry include the moral and ethical decay of the community. Idolatry often led to widespread injustice, violence, and exploitation as people followed corrupt practices associated with idol worship. For example, in 2 Kings 17:15 through 17, the Israelites are described as rejecting God's decrees, leading to practices like child sacrifice. This societal breakdown underscores how idolatry not only affects individuals, but also undermines the moral fabric of entire communities. Identifying modern idols requires recognizing anything that takes precedence over our relationship with God. Today, idols can manifest in various forms, including money, power, success, relationships, technology, and even personal achievements. These idols consume our time, energy, and devotion, subtly replacing God as the central focus of our lives. Modern idolatry shares striking similarities with biblical idolatry. Just as ancient idols were created and worshipped, today's idols are often the result of human ambition and desire. The essence of idolatry, placing ultimate trust and worth in something other than God, remains unchanged. For instance, just as the Israelites turned to golden calves, people today might idolize wealth, believing it provides ultimate security and happiness. The consequences of modern idolatry mirror those found in the Bible. Spiritual disconnection, ethical compromises, and societal issues often arise when we prioritize these modern idols. By understanding these parallels, we can better guard against idolatry in our own lives, ensuring our worship and devotion remain solely directed toward God. Biblical guidance provides a clear pathway to avoiding idolatry. Scriptures like Matthew 22:37 remind us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This commandment emphasizes complete devotion to God, ensuring He remains our top priority. Regular prayer, Bible study, and worship are essential practices to deepen our relationship with God and keep our focus on Him. Practical steps for today include regularly evaluating what occupies our thoughts, time, and resources, setting boundaries around the use of technology, money, and other potential idols can help maintain a balanced perspective. Engaging in community worship and accountability groups can provide support and encouragement to stay faithful in our devotion to God. Additionally, practicing gratitude and contentment helps combat the lure of modern idols. By recognizing and appreciating God's blessings, we can resist the temptation to seek fulfillment in material possessions or achievements. Prioritizing relationships with family, friends, and our faith community over material pursuits also reinforces a God-centered life. Through these practical steps, we can safeguard our hearts against idolatry and live in alignment with God's will. In this video, we explored the biblical perspective on idolatry, understanding its definition, the Old and New Testament teachings, and its consequences. We also examined how idolatry manifests in modern times and discussed practical steps to avoid it. Idolatry remains a significant spiritual danger, both in biblical times and today. By staying vigilant and prioritizing our relationship with God, we can avoid the pitfalls of modern idols. Embracing biblical guidance and incorporating practical steps into our daily lives helps us maintain our devotion to God. As we conclude, let's commit to keeping God at the center of our lives. Regularly reflect on what may be taking His place in your heart and take steps to realign your focus. Remember, true fulfillment and peace come from a deep, unwavering relationship with God. Stay strong in your faith and continue to seek His guidance in all you do.